So in this session, we will explore the transformative power of mentoring and how you can get involved. Mentoring has profound impact on individuals, communities, organizations, and the society as a whole, with research showing that mentored youth and young adults are more likely to succeed in school and in life when they're mentored. For example, a study by Public-Private Ventures found that mentored youth were 46% more likely to be interested in and participate in extracurricular activities and sports. And mentoring can also have a positive impact on mentees' educational success, with a study by the National Mentoring Partnership indicating that mentored students were 55% more likely to enroll in college than non-mentored youth. Mentored youth also had better attendance and grades. Importantly, according to research by Mentor, mentored youth and young adults are 130% more likely to hold leadership positions. And mentoring isn't just beneficial for mentees, it's also a positive impact for the mentors themselves. Research has shown that mentors experience personal and professional growth, develop new skills, and build meaningful relationships. For example, based on research by the Mentor National Mentoring Partnership, 90% of mentors report that mentoring has had a positive impact on their own lives. In a study by the Harvard Business Review found that 76% of mentors reported that mentoring had a positive impact on their career development. In addition, research by Mentor indicates that 71% of mentors feel an improved sense of purpose, and that 65% say that they experienced increased confidence in their ability to make positive impacts. The benefits of mentoring extend beyond individuals to communities and to organizations. Mentoring can help build stronger, more resilient communities by fostering positive relationships between adults and members of younger generations. For example, a study by the Corporation for National and Community Service found that mentoring programs can help reduce juvenile delinquency, crime, and violence. And organizationally, mentoring programs can contribute an average of $3.93 for every dollar invested by an organization, with institutional benefits including increased productivity, retention, and community engagement. These data demonstrate the power of mentoring to transform lives and communities. So let's learn more about the importance of mentoring and about the efforts and opportunities in our region and in chapters of national mentor programs. Welcome, Jason and panelists, and thank you for being here. Daniel, back to you.
Thank you, David. And before I introduce our moderator, Jason Benitez, I want to thank a number of people and units who made today's event possible, starting with marketing, in particular, Maria and Nyla, communications with Aaron, Jason, Stacy, Connor, particularly our information technology team, and also our facilities team. Thank you so much for all your work. Our President David, Jill and Lori from the President's Office, Pam from the Center for Social Justice. Really, this has been a team effort, so thank you everyone for your participation. And also, toward the end of the session, we'll have time for questions, answers, comments. So if you could please use, if you're remote, if you could please use the Q&A space and do that. You also have the option, if you're remote, to raise your hand, and then the team is ready to elevate you to be able to ask your question in person, if that's what you would prefer to do. Of course, if you're in person, prepare your questions, and we'll have time at the end to ask them. And now I have the privilege of introducing a wonderful colleague and friend, our panel moderator, Jason Benitez, Vice President of Inclusion with the Capital Region Chamber, where he is responsible for assisting businesses and organizations in the Capital Region in attracting, finding, and retaining diverse talent from a multitude of backgrounds. Jason also works to advance the strategic mission of the Chamber, relevant to the areas of both talent development as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Capital Region Chamber and its Center for Economic Growth affiliate drive economic prosperity with one voice, one mission, as one region. The Chamber, with 2,900 members, business members from throughout Albany, Saratoga, Schenectady, and Rensselaer counties, provides leadership, advocacy, and broad-based member services. The Center for Economic Growth is the 8-county regional economic development organization. Jason previously worked, he's one of us. He worked for 15 years in higher education at 3 local institutions. We need to find a way to get him back. Albany, SUNY, Schenectady, and mostly recently Union College, where he spent 8 years as Associate Dean of Diversity and Inclusion. Jason holds a bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's degree in higher education administration from the State University of New York at Albany. And he lives in Singerlands with his wife and his beautiful 2 kids, 2 children. Thank you so much for your partnership, Jason, and for moderating today's panel. It's an honor to have you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Daniel. President Scable, thank you so much for just carving out space, right? One thing, I think when Daniel first arrived to the area, we met as higher ed colleagues, as fellow Latino brothers, and then also just kind of, I love what I've been seeing coming out of Excelsior University as far as really stressing that there are opportunities to get involved right here or wherever you are, and there's a need for it. So we're gonna kind of highlight that need today and hopefully create some new conversations and connections. So my entire bio was read, so I don't think I need any more introduction, but I would love for you all to briefly introduce yourselves. And then also, if you can add in your introduction, what brought you to lead a mentoring program, or what what moves you about leading a mentoring program? So we'll start with Abby. And I've been asked I'll hold on to one mic, but if the rest of you could share the other 3, that would be great. And we need to speak into it for the folks online to hear. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Abigail Gomes, but Abby, please, when you see me in the streets. I am the Association Director for Youth Development for the YMCA, the Capital District YMCA, and I have the distinct honor and pleasure of leading the Black and Latino Achievers and the Youth in Government programs, which are 2 of the Y's flagship programs. What got me to mentorship? I will tell you that it really is because I am an immigrant to this country. And so coming into America and having a mother who didn't know much about the educational system, I kind of had to lean on everyone else. And so I latched on to a few women who I carry with me, and I talk about all of them to this day because they all had a pivotal part to play in why I'm here right now. So Gail Arlene Govaya Atherley. She was my college writing English teacher in high school, and Miss Nicole Brown and Miss Parkinson. So those 3 teachers, one scared me. Miss Parkinson scared me. Nicole Brown celebrated my quirkiness, and Miss Govaya Atherley taught me excellence in my work and presentation. And so the 3 of them behind me and with me all the time is the reason why I'm here. And I want to be able to give that gift also to students who are in need of that support.
Thank you, Abby. I'm John Carr. I work for the Office of Court of Administration, and my job is to make things happen. It's kind of a broad description, but that's where it starts. How did I get into mentoring? It was quite accidental, actually. About 7 years ago, I got a call one evening at home from a very dear friend named Andre Ackerman, who had just become a judge, a part-time criminal court judge in Cohoes. And she was very, very upset by what she was seeing every day. In fact, she was crying. What she was seeing was an endless parade of young individuals, directionless, committing an escalating series of misdemeanors. She saw them on a path that would likely end in one of 2 places, state prison or a cemetery. And the reason this bothered her was she'd look into their backgrounds, and they were very typical, very consistent, usually in poverty or near poverty, always did not have active parents in their life, sometimes no one whatsoever. If they were going to school, they were on the brink, they were not doing well, or they were on the brink of getting flunking out or getting thrown out. And she saw where this was headed. And the reason this impacted her so much, resonated with her so much, is she was one of those kids. She was a throwaway kid. And I'll never forget what she said. She said, I sit up on the bench and I look at these kids and I say, how come I'm up here and they're down there? I'm not better than they are. And we talked for a long time. And she realized that at critical junctures in her life, there was someone there to show support, confidence, to nudge her back on the right track when she was going off the wrong track. And that's what made the difference. And she wanted to replicate that in the courts. And she asked me to research what court-based programs there were. There were none. I couldn't find anything in the state. I couldn't find anything nationally. So we said, let's invent one. So we did. We did it without permission. We did it without money. And 7 years later, we're going strong, and it was spread to courts across the state.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Tamara McCollum. I'm the Director of Programs at 518 Elevated, formerly Capital Region Sponsor a Scholar. And I just hit my 1-year anniversary there, so, but I have been within youth mentoring, particularly for about 15 years. And I'm a kid who was always in an after-school program. My mom worked long hours and was a single mom. And what I learned through that is that kids always need a safe adult to complain about their parents too. And that's kind of what has led my professional journey, is just understanding that mentorship on the ground level with students really just means a lot of listening and a lot of relieving yourself of the pressure of being the expert in the room, and really just finding out, what the kids care about and what they're talking about. The other thing that I've learned through my journey is that qualifications that make you a mentor are not what people typically think they are. I was working as a college and career counselor before I had my college degree. And in the process of myself in school, applying for, FAFSA every semester, I was able to support my students directly because I knew what they were going through. And that completely changed my perception of how students can learn from safe adults. And everyone does not have to have like the biggest job or the best title. Excuse me. It's more about like what you want to contribute to young people and what they can see in you as a person. And so because of that, it's changed the way that I approach supporting people who want to be mentors, and really being able to identify what they believe are inherent and intrinsic qualities about themselves that they can give to young people versus how high on the ladder that they've climbed, and that it has to always be a professional type of mentoring space. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kayla Dos Santos. I'm with Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Capital Region. I have actually kind of stumbled into this space of working in mentorship through the journey that brought me here. And I think that actually is part of the reason that for me, it's such a profound investment of energy and time. I'm a first-generation American, the first kid in my family to go to college. I was one of those throwaway kids that just didn't really have a lot of leadership or guidance in my life when I was growing up. But I made a point to always cultivate those sorts of relationships. Like, I had the very good privilege of being able to see whenever there was an opportunity there, and that was just the way that my mind worked. So my friends have always called me Special K because I'm very good at like looking at situations and kind of drawing nonlinear connections. And in saying that, that's also how I found myself here at Big Brothers Big Sisters. Before I worked here, I had been a consultant kind of going around the country. I've lived in every corner of the United States and in Kansas and in Texas. And I cultivated a lot of opportunities that were from working with family-owned businesses, what we colloquially call resource-constrained, operationally volatile businesses, startups, and entrepreneurial ventures. And I actually ended up with Big Brothers Big Sisters as a consultant whenever their CEO originally resigned this summer. And after spending 8 months on basically like the longest job interview ever, I became the CEO in January. And it was wonderful. It suddenly, all of the pieces fell into place as to what I was doing here, why I ended up with Big Brothers Big Sisters. And I've honestly never felt such a divine sense of purpose and a divine guidance into where I am right now. So I know it's a little touchy-feely, but
Hi, I'm Keta Duran. I am the Senior Program Manager at Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Capital Region with Kayla. And what brought me into mentoring is I didn't really have any experience with mentoring organizations or anything with mentoring. I took it on as a very part-time job, and I didn't really know I had a future with the organization or how long I'd be with them. And immediately after starting, I, fell in love with the mission, and I was just in awe of, what an impact our volunteers had on their kids that they're matched with, and what, the growth and the changes that we saw in our kids. And immediately the mission meant so much to me, and I was, fortunate to be able to become a full-time employee. And, I've probably done every job there is there, but I just, it meant so much to me. And now, I can't imagine working anywhere else or in another field.
Great, thank you so much. And for the panelists and for the audience, the way this will work is we have a set of questions. We're not going to ask everyone to answer each question. We'll have a few folks that will lead a question. And then, as always, if there's any add-ons that any of the other panelists would like to add on to that response, we will, accommodate those as well. So starting with Tamara and then going to John, from your perspective, what is the power of mentoring?
The power of mentoring for me comes through as a mom. I'm a mom of three. I have a son and he's involved in mentoring programs and things like that. And what sticks out to me is I remember when I was a kid and I was in programs and I was connecting with the safe adults that led the programs, and my mom knew nothing about the relationships I was building. It was just kind of someplace that I could be, after school for a few hours. But I remember I couldn't wait to go to school the next day and talk to a particular teacher. I couldn't wait to go to after school and continue talking about a TV show with Mr. Jack, who was one of my high school mentors and led my after school program. And because of those experiences, I know that parents don't know everything. Parents, as well-meaning as they may be, are not able to connect with their children on every single point. And it is important for kids to have many people in their lives that, touch on different interests that they may have, or expose them to different things, or feed them, or, just talk about music or whatever the case may be. So with my son, I'm noticing that he and I are able to develop a stronger and deeper relationship because with him being connected with other adults that are able to show him things, talk to him about anime that I have absolutely no idea about, and things like that he's interested in, it really alleviates my stress of needing to be the person for him when I don't understand things. And I think that's really important for children to have someone else to go to. And so I see, both as someone who runs a mentoring program and someone who is a family recipient of the benefits of mentorship, how important it really is for every child to be involved with adults that can help them along the way in ways that, again, we never think of, to introduce them to different careers or introduce them, kids need to hear, my son needs to hear from people that, oh, even though I'm this buttoned up professional now, got into trouble sometimes just like you do. It kind of gives them the idea that they're not stuck in this 9-year-old troublemaker stage. They actually have a place to go after this, and they're able to see that in places other than from his mom, who is constantly better than that, that kind of thing. So it comes across as a family benefit for me.
Thank you. John?
In a criminal justice context, we're dealing with people who are very, very high risk. The people in our program are on no one's most likely to succeed list. When Judge Ackerman and I were putting this together, we talked to experts in the field, and they said, you can have an 80% failure rate. And we looked at each other and we said, we can save 2 of them? Go for it. Because otherwise, we're looking at a 100% failure rate. Well, we have a success rate of 80%. I'd like to read you some of the things that mentors have said. If I get emotional, excuse me, I'm very passionate about this. I just want to prove to everyone who thinks I'm a lost cause or a bad kid that I'm not a bad kid. I laugh and cry like a normal kid. I just made bad mistakes, and I will do anything to redeem myself. That was Sebastian. He came into the program with a hideous sense of self-esteem, no sense of self-esteem. He thought he was a loser. He thought he was stupid. He thought he was going nowhere. He had a terrible home life. We paired him with a wonderful mentor. I think he was a fire chief, who showed him that he had worth, to show him that he had value. And the Judge Ackerman, held his feet to the fire. Sebastian has not been arrested since getting a mentor 7 years ago. Sebastian has not been arrested again. Another one, when I was going through hard times, I could always count on my mentor being there for me. I could actually trust her. The individuals in our program tend not to trust people for real good reason, because adults tend to walk out on them, abandon them, exploit them, steal from them. But what I've always found interesting, and I think you agree with this, is they really want to trust somebody. They really do. And it takes a while. I think it took a while for Jamara to trust you. Yeah. But Jason was one of our mentors and did a fabulous job. And the guy he was mentoring first few months was not likely to succeed, and he did fabulously. Another one, my favorite part was hearing the judge say how proud she is of me, having other people in the court cheering me on rather than glaring at me for things I wish I never did. As I said, many of our mentees have no self-esteem. Nobody's ever said good job to them. And while we do hold them very strictly accountable, Judge Ackerman makes an interesting distinction between guilt and shame. Guilt, she tells them, is a good thing. You did something wrong and you ought to feel bad about it. Shame is I'm a bad person. That is not healthy. She doesn't allow that to happen, or tries to prevent that from happening. Having a mentor helped me focus on the positive things, guided me in the right direction. I really felt she was someone who listened and truly took the time to talk to me. Another one. You can literally change my life. When I first went to jail, I was lost and I had nowhere to go. No good support system. And what you did for me just literally changed my life and opened up a lot of doors for me. And my favorite one. This was a young black girl who got wrapped up in, I think it was a Black Lives Matter protest, got involved in looting, broke a shop window, stole something valuable. To the extent possible, we try to match mentors and mentees by race if we think it's relevant. We didn't have a black mentor for her. We paired her with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, and they hit it off wonderfully. And at the end of the program, this girl said, you know, I learned some things. And the most important thing I learned is some things transcend race. Hallelujah.
Wow. Thank you for kicking us off. Excuse me. So Tamara, I love that. And I'll kind of to regroup, like let a person who has been poured into be fortunate enough to pour into others, right? And how, sometimes even families need a little extra support. And if your kids can be getting that from other trusted adults, that's important. And then, to John's point, just the power, I don't even need to stress the impactful lives that he's mentioned. And I later on, we'll talk a little bit about my pairing through the UCAN program. So we're coming over to Kayla and Abby. Unless anybody has anything like to add to that previous question. Okay. We're coming over to Kayla and Abby. Kayla first and then Abby. How does mentoring impact mentees, mentors, and the community overall?
Whew, there's a lot there. So one of the things that we believe at Big Brothers Big Sisters is that while talent is evenly distributed, opportunity is not. And so through creating these mentorships, we are able to see that, some of the things that disproportionately affect youth that are in the families that we serve, we are able to see, and one of the things that's unique about the Big Brothers Big Sisters model is that we collect a lot of data. And so through like our high school leadership program, for example, we just started that 2 years ago. And in collecting data around that, we found that our peer-to-peer mentorship model there is actually responsible for a 67% decrease in depressive symptoms. We do a lot of social emotional learning. There's a curriculum that goes with that program that helps kids learn about mindfulness, interpersonal development, perspective, et cetera. We also found that there are some indirect benefits as well. We found a 34% increase in family connectedness among the youth that were in the programs and the feedback from their parents and from the mentors that they have. That's just on a psychological level with the kids that we serve. On a societal level, one of the cool things, again, about the data is that with Big Brothers Big Sisters, it's such a large organization that we were able to have a longitudinal study that we just did last year that studied kids who were in our programs for over 20 years. And we were able to compare and contrast the kids that were in the programs versus those who were on the wait list who were never matched. And we found that those that were matched were 20% more likely to enroll in college. They earned 15% more in their lifetime. It closed the wealth gap by 2/3. So like if you're thinking about tax brackets, they jump up to the next tax bracket. We find that the mentees are that their income in life is more correlated with their mentor's income versus that from the household which they come from. And, really just overall, we found that there's just this huge impact that happens. The US Treasury Department and Harvard, through this study, did this analysis. That's where all of this data comes from, is from these very trusted sources. And one of the quotes from that study that's just mind-boggling to me is that not only are these things important on a personal level, but that investment in mentorship is the single best investment in economic development and the most cost-effective investment in economic development that's available to our society. And so us investing in mentorship and investing in each other on an interpersonal level takes the entire society up a level. So that's all.
We will be putting a little bit
casual.
of gentle pressure on the audience to consider getting involved. But yes, Abby, go ahead. How does mentoring impact mentees, mentors, and the community?
Okay, so the whole focus, well, part of the focus, I should say, of Black and Latino achievers really is building community while we're developing their leadership skills. And one of the things that we really focus on is accountability, personal responsibility is really important. We talk to them about wanting and needing to serve people before you can lead them. And we've built the program to model just that thing. And so everyone in the program, from the staff all the way down, is doing the thing that we're asking these kids to do and be when they enter their professional spaces. And so the consequences that they receive, good or bad, for their actions, they receive it. But we always tell them that we rather you receive those consequences with us, where we can hug you back, right? Where we can control this space and hug you back into the right light, than you go out and you don't have anyone to guide you. And so I will tell you that we do not assign mentees or mentors to mentees. We, as the adults, have to pass the achievers vibe check. And so we create opportunities for them to talk to us and ask us all the things. I will tell you that one of my mentees cornered me and grilled me. She asked me, where do I see myself in 5 years? Why should she choose me as her mentor? What can I add to her life? Whoa, ma'am. Okay. Pop quiz, I didn't study. But I share that to say that in the modeling of what we're trying to have them do, as they become or morph into their adulthood, is to take ownership of the relationships in their life. And so from that very moment, we are empowering them to take ownership in relationships, building boundaries, and understanding who they should let into their lives. So if I get chosen, which I did, by the way, I did. I won. But now that she's my mentee, now she is under my fire. And I actually heard from one of my directors last week that she was in program complaining that Miss Abby is always on her tail. Yes. Yes, I am. Because excellence is the standard, right? And everyone else in your life is going to push you. She's a great young lady. But so am I. So am I. You're the boss's mentee. Come on. And so that's from the mentee perspective. But for me, she pushed me to always be ready to think to talk about what my 5-year plan is. Who expects to be asked that in a regular conversation? But she pushes me in a way that really I'm always thinking about her and my other mentees and all of my actions, all of my doings, not just how it affects me, but how it affects her. One of the things that I do share with them is that, and with my own children, is that the work that I'm doing every single day is attached to my name. And my name being attached to you at one point is going to either open or close a door for you. And so I'm always so mindful about the things that I'm doing, the people I'm talking to, the circles that I'm in, because I don't ever want my name to close a door for my mentee or my children, right? And then for the community piece, we are building leaders, so they will all be working at Excelsior University at some point. And so we are just making sure that they understand their place in community and that they are a part of it. And they are to pour into the spaces and the places that have poured into them. And so we make that service a really, really big part of the program.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody want to add anything to that? Okay. So we're going to go to John, Tamara, and also Keta with this question, and I'll kind of end it. But is there a mentoring story that you can share with the audience to illustrate the power of mentoring? So in no particular order, but John, Tamara, Keta, and then I will finish.
Yeah, so I have one of our most impactful stories is, so we refer to our mentors and mentees as bigs and littles. So we had a little sister who was first matched when she was 8 years old with her big sister, Karen. And they immediately hit it off. They had a lot in common. But a little over a year after they were initially matched, our little sister and her biological sisters were removed from their home, and they spent the next 2 years in various placements, foster care, group homes. And throughout that 2 years, her big sister followed her no matter where she was. One time she was moved out of the capital region. It was quite a significant drive, but no matter what, her big sister found her wherever she was and continued to support her. And she knew that no matter what was going on, no matter who she was living with, she had her big sister, and that her big sister was still going to be there twice a month to see her, was going to call her every week, and she knew she had that support. And she's now been returned to her home, but again, they're still friends. They've been together for 6 years now, but the little sister has expressed to us that she loves her big sister and that she's so glad she found her. And they both expressed that they intend to be, friends for life. Long after she graduates from our program and from high school, she wants her big sister in her life. And I think that's a testament to what the mentorship can be.
You know what I mean? Okay. So my story of the power of mentoring is actually about me. And so I shared before that I was a college and career counselor before I even had a college degree. And that was through the power of mentoring. So I was in the Westchester County Youth Council when I was a teenager. And I went on to become a college student and a college dropout. And not long after I dropped out of college, I had my first child and was back in my hometown, feeling bad about myself, low self-esteem, feeling like I had failed everyone who had, high goals for me, being that I was, a top student in my high school, all of these things. So I didn't think I was worthy of necessarily any opportunities outside of maybe working in retail, things like that. And I thought that the high achieving student I was a few years before was long gone. Until I got a message on Facebook from the woman who used to run the Westchester County Youth Council. And she says, "Hey, I'm working at your old high school, and I want you to come in and interview for a position to come work in the after school program with me." And I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? I'm like, me, like the 21-year-old with the 9-month-old baby, no longer high achieving, like all of that. And she was reaching out to me because of who I was, not what I had achieved. And she remembered how hardworking I was and how much I had to offer, even when I was a teenager, when I was 16 and 17 years old, and reached out to me on that basis, right? So I go on this interview and I get the job. I've never worked with teenagers before. I was barely out of being a teenager myself. I remember being super nervous about being around the kid. I'm like, what are they going to think about me? And I really had much more in common with the students who were in the high school I had just graduated from a few years ago than I thought I did. And so me at 22 years old with a baby, college dropout, I was making up games for students to play after school, and I was connecting with them in ways that a lot of the other adults couldn't connect with them, because I'm like, "Oh, you have homework from that teacher? I remember I used to sit in that exact desk things like that. And again, that reminded me that I have something to give. And through my relationship building with the students, even when I thought I had nothing to contribute to them, I was able to work my way up. And when an opportunity came to, there was an opening in the College and Career Center, it was offered to me. And when, I even was asking, like, what makes me qualified for this? It was because the students already trusted me. Without even knowing that there would have been a bigger opportunity for me to grow in my career, I was already making those connections with the students. And that mattered a lot more than what my qualifications were in that moment. So to me, the power of mentoring a lot of times can mean economic growth, economic development, can mean a job. It can mean, having your former mentees become your colleagues and wanting that for them, because our goal when we are working with children is that in them coming in contact with us, they are better off in this world. And so they make more money than us. They climb the corporate ladder faster than we did, things like that. And I'm proof of that.
In the world I'm living in, it can make a difference literally between. Oh, gotta get close with it. In the world that I live in, we are very literally talking life and death. And what we're seeing I have a lot of stories I could share, and in the interest of time, I'll only focus on one of them because it says a lot in a lot of different facets of this. What we're seeing, Judge Ackerman is now a felony court judge, Albany County Court judge, which deals with felonies, serious crimes. And what she's seeing in her court and what we're seeing in courts across the state is an endless parade of young men, almost always men, of color, almost always of color, who have no prior offenses, no known gang affiliation. They live in a dangerous neighborhood where they have a legitimate concern for their safety, and they procure a gun, and they get caught. Under New York law, criminal possession of a weapon is a violent felony offense, whether you pointed it at anyone or not, whether you fired it or not. If you have it, it's a violent felony offense, and the district attorney has a whole lot of power there. District attorney in those circumstances was offering a plea bargain. 2 years in state prison if you plea now. 3 years in state prison if you make us go through the trouble of getting an indictment. And if you go to trial and lose, and if you go to trial, you will lose. There's no defense. You had the gun. 7 years. Judge Ackman wasn't willing to do that without giving them a chance. And that brings us to Anthony, the first gun case we took. Anthony was a young man fitting exactly the profile I just made. No priors, no gang, et cetera, et cetera. He could not have done better in this program with a wonderful mentor who'd done time himself, a guy named Miguel. Do you know Miguel? Toronto? He was a fabulous mentor. He mentored Anthony for the year of the program. Anthony, it was perfect. He did everything absolutely right. And at the end of the program, the district attorney was so impressed that that this guy they wanted to send to state prison in saddle for life with a violent felony conviction on his record, they gave him a misdemeanor. Today, Anthony is proudly and honorably serving his country as a United States Marine, recently promoted. That doesn't happen with a violent felony conviction in his record. That is the power of mentoring.
Wow. Just briefly, my story. So I was paired with a young man in Albany County, and pretty serious crimes. He had just gotten out, from prison for a few years. Was only 15 or 16, and we were meeting. And it just, I was committed. I was, leaving work in Wolf Road in Colony to drive downtown Albany across from the MVP Center, where there's I think it's a youth probation office, having to enter in metal detectors every time we go in. And he just, I could see that it was a struggle in connecting with me. I tried to say why I was there to offer support, not judge him. But he ended up ghosting me on the last couple of meetings. And then I found out from the program that he violated parole and was kicked out of the program. So I was paired up with a second young man from Schenectady County. And this was in the midst of COVID. So this program requires mentor and mentee to meet 1 hour a week for an entire year. And if the mentee holds to that, the fact that they've honored that commitment will reflect positively in their, eventual, court proceedings. So I was paired up with this young man. He had waved a BB gun. I think he might have even, shot off the BB gun at another kid in the community. And, obviously for reasons John just mentioned, they take, that very seriously as an on-ramp to, future gun violence. So, he was facing some time. So it was hard, kind of, particularly through COVID and virtual meetings, to kind of get to a place where we knew what that hour on that call was supposed to be about. And there were some moments where, he didn't show up to the call, or what was working in his favor is that he had younger siblings that he was partially responsible for. He had a part-time job, he had a vehicle, and I think those were all things that were working in his advantage. So through some trials and tribulations, some quiet moments on the calls where he didn't have much to share and it was like pulling teeth, but he completed and sharing a story here, and I'll ask to pull up a photo. I have a photo. I got to be in court with him on the last day in Schenectady County Court, where he basically completed the UCAN program and avoided jail time by completing the program. And his name is Jamari. That's him there. I gifted him a telescope and compass set to kind of like, just metaphorically tell him, hopefully this will help you never lose your way. And if you do, there's a way to kind of find where I am and support. So that was a very impactful day. That was probably the biggest smile I had seen on him in the time that I had been meeting with him. I think there's one other photo of him with the judge there as well, Judge Frost. She had a lot of impactful words to him on that day as he completed. She came from down off the bench, to hug him, to shake his hand, congratulate him, and to take some photos. So I think that is indicative of the care that Judge Frost brings to this. So that was a very impactful moment. And I think, and I shared this in the planning call, very often you think you're in these situations or these pairings to give, but you're very much getting from these conversations as well. So fast forward, I ran into John, a year later, and said that I hadn't heard from Jamari for like a year. I was texting him and was emailing him, no response. I was getting worried that maybe he was caught up in something. Judge Frost said, usually when you don't hear from them, that's a good thing. And then more recently, when I was asked this past fall to take on another mentee, it made me think of Jamari, and I texted the number and surprised that he responded and said that he's doing well. He's still employed at a warehouse and has a job, and he's not in prison. So I guess that's the most successful part of the story. So again, just a little bit on my journey with the UCAN program. Okay, I know we have some other questions we'd like to get to. So here,
Can I add a little bit more on Jamari?
Yes, please.
Jamari, he had committed a misdemeanor, and he got out of it with no criminal record whatsoever. And his story was fairly typical, really. They pushed the edges of the envelope at the beginning, and I don't know why or when or how he had an epiphany, but I was ready to tie him to the railroad tracks. He was doing nothing right. Mm-hmm. And there's I don't remember what song it was. It was a John Lennon song where he says something like, how can I go forward when I don't know what direction I'm facing? Jason showed him what direction he's facing, and he's not been back in court in 2 years.
2 years. Thank you. Yes. I appreciate that anecdote there. So now coming to the next question, and this is going to be for Tamara and Kayla. What would you tell community members who are considering getting involved in mentoring? Tamara and Kayla, and then anyone else wants that. What would you tell a community member who's considering getting involved? Like, I know that the programs me and John most recently spoke about are at-risk youth, but I want to be clear that not all of these mentoring programs are specifically for at-risk youth. So it could be a student who's excelling and who's doing well in school and just has a need to connect with an adult or a parent that's not being filled. So I want to make that clear that, not every situation has to involve somebody that's on the fringes of a really, risky situation. So please, what would you tell community members who are considering getting involved?
Absolutely. Well, a little about 518 Elevated in our mentoring program. We like for our students to be connected with a mentor from 10th grade all the way through until they graduate, because a part of something that makes an adult safe is consistency, and that a lot of times a mentor who meets with them once a month or texts them every weekend and checks up on them, even to find out what they got on their exams, can be the most consistent adult in their life outside of the people who are providing for them in their home, which is really important, right? So, thinking about why would a student connect with you or open up to you if they don't know when you're coming back? These are the kinds of things that are very important in terms of consistency. So that's something to consider if you're interested in getting involved with 518 Elevated. Something that another piece of advice I would give for community members who are looking to get involved is really sit back and consider your true capacity, true capacity to support a young person. There are mentoring programs that ours are just some examples, myself and the other panelists here, but there are mentoring programs that are virtual. There are mentoring programs that involve, you showing your hobbies to people, like inviting students over to teach them how to garden, or, going to support the school play with the kids who are interested in drama. There are mentoring programs where you have to meet every week, or you have to go tutor with them every 2 days and things like that. So one thing I would say is really consider what your capacity is, and also consider what you have to offer other than your work life, because something else, talking about work all the time can be exhausting. And with teenagers who aren't necessarily exposed to all of the different career paths, they may not be able to connect with you in those ways. So thinking about what you enjoyed when you were a kid, or what you wish someone would have talked to you about, those things can also be, avenues of connection. But yeah, when you take into consideration what time you truly have to offer, and then seek out a mentoring program that aligns with that most, it allows for you to be the most consistent and show up in the most important way with a young person, as opposed to finding out that even though 3 times a week sounded great 2 months ago, now it's tax season and they're not going to see you until July. So I would say really consider, be honest and open with yourself, and then seek out the mentoring programs that really do exist all over the 518 and all over New York State, and get connected with a young person in whichever ways you can show up, because showing up is the most important part.
Sometimes the best ability is availability.
That's true.
Once a month is better than never.
Yes. Well, and I think I can speak to that too, because one of the things that we have found is that like a lot of our, like at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we say it takes little to be big, which of course is a play naturally on our brand because we call our mentors and mentees bigs and littles. But the reality is that you never know what little thing you're doing that makes such a huge impact on somebody. It can be 15 minutes every now and then. Like I know that personally, the mentor that I had growing up, she was a neighbor and I would go out and see her when she was planting tulip bulbs or pulling weeds or something. And just having that relationship, having that safe space, having that consistency made a huge difference. I mean, she's the person who I asked to come when I had my daughter. You never really know how important it is and how big of a deal it is whenever you're working with a youth that maybe doesn't have that consistency or they don't have that positivity. And I think that, everybody that it goes through our program, we say that you're life qualified. You don't need to have a special skill. You don't need to have a background in early childhood development. You don't have to have a degree. You can just be a person with a good heart that can be consistent, that can show up regularly, and that just has the best intentions and has really, more than anything, the ear to listen. A lot of times, a majority of the times, we have found that more than guidance and more than even direction, just having the availability and being able to listen and to be present in the conversation and to listen, that is sometimes the space that needs to be held for the kids that we work with or the youth that we work with. So with that said, I don't think I can overstate like that renewed sense of joy too. When we are living our lives as, mentors, as adults, we forget sometimes the beautiful things that we did when we were children. So maybe you want to go see that Disney film at the theater, or maybe you want to have an excuse to go to Huck Finn's Playland. Like whenever you are mentoring a youth, you have an excuse and a reason to think back to those things that brought you joy and the opportunity to relive them, and someone to do it with, which I think is the most important thing, is having that connection. So.
Absolutely. I just want to add that in our program, we have students who are connected to mentors who help them lay their life out from January to June, plotting everything on their calendars, et cetera. And then we have students who go get their nails done with their mentors or go get ice cream, every 3 weeks, or go to the amusement park. And it really is about filling the need that the student has identified in whatever that moment is. So another thing would be remaining open to supporting young people, whichever way they need to be supported, as opposed to maybe whatever ways you've decided you can support them. Just because sometimes it's a walk in the park. Sometimes it's just, let me just go outside, or let's play basketball.
I actually have one of our mentors that we love that shows up all the time. One of the things that he said when I was asking him about why he's a big, he said, "Well, Amari would just want to play basketball. All he wants to do is play basketball and go to the gym and watch movies. That's all I'd be doing anyway. So, like, why wouldn't we do it together?"
That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so now coming over to Abby and Keta, what advice would you give to prospective or current mentors about effective ways of supporting others through mentoring? Sometimes it's been hinted that sometimes as busy adults, right, being a mentor can sometimes you hit moments where it can be taxing or challenging, right? With my case, it was 1 hour a week for a year, which sounds like, okay, 1 hour a week, but there was weeks where I found it hard to kind of squeeze that in, right, on top of everything. So first, Abby, then Keta, what advice would you give to prospective or current mentors about effective ways of supporting others through mentoring?
So I will say, in echoing what my fellow panelists were talking about, with achievers, the profile of an adult achiever, our mentors, starts with a foundation of three things: consistency, caring, and committed. If you don't think those three things of yourself, then just eliminate yourself from the running. You're not a mentor, not yet, not yet. Also understanding that mentorship is a whole body, whole spirit experience. And so with the achievers in particular, when they choose you to be their mentor, they're not choosing you because the moment feels right. They're choosing you because they're seeing you in the crowd at their baby shower. They're seeing you in the crowd at their wedding. They're seeing you waving at graduation. They're seeing you past that moment. And so the consistency is necessary. It's absolutely necessary. And so if, as you're providing support, reinforcing for your mentee that you're there, but not just saying it. It's my wrap-up reminder. Sometimes you get in the zone, you have to tell yourself. But also reminding them in your actions and your deeds, showing them in your actions and your deeds that you are committed. As Tamara said, being consistent, it's really important, because that is what builds the trust, which leads to the opening, which eventually leads to their growth, whatever that may be. Also understand that sometimes what the relationship started off as isn't what it's going to end up being. It's going to morph as you lay the groundwork for them and you create these safe spaces for them. They'll start to open up and explore different parts of themselves that they probably weren't considering before the conversation with you, and now they want to venture into a new space. And so while my mentee may have come to me because she's seeing me as whatever she's seeing me as in the moment, eventually she'll start seeing me, which it has happened. She's seeing me in this leadership role. And so she and her family started attending my church. And so at my church, she's seeing me in a different role at the church. And now it's a different vision. And I just found out the other day she invited my son to her Sweet 16. I don't know when that happened, but but she's seeing me in all of these different spaces and these different lights, wearing these different hats, which is making her want to do more and express more and learn more. And so be open. I heard that earlier, be open to being able to shift, understand that it's not your narrative, it's theirs. Let them lead the relationship. You're there to guide, not to tell. They're there to do, not you. Right? And just be caring. Remember the heart, because that is at the crux of everything. Simon Sinek is one of my favorite speakers, and he always says, once you know your why, your what automatically follows. Right. And so finding out what your mentees' whys, first knowing your why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to mentor? And then finding out why your mentee wants to be mentored. Because that why will shift the what, which will eventually shift the why again into something else as they grow.
Yeah, so what I would tell a prospective mentor, and I don't mean to repeat what everyone said, but I don't think it can be, stated enough that consistency really is the number one thing. And when we enroll our children in our program, that is the number one thing that their parents or guardians ask for, is just to have a consistent person in their life and someone who will, show up for their child. And that's what we tell our mentors when they first get started with us. It doesn't really matter as much where you go or what you do. If you show up when you say you're going to show up, and you call when you say you're going to call, that's the number one thing you can do to show your little that you're reliable and trustworthy, and that you are worth making an investment in, and for them to invest emotionally in. Another thing that I would suggest is, utilize the resources that are available to you. Be open to communication and collaboration, both with the agency that you're working with and the child's parent, guardian, or any other adult that may be involved in their life. Everyone has the same goal, which is to make sure that your mentee is successful. So it's just important to utilize those resources. So like at our agency, every match is assigned a staff member who checks in with them. We have online trainings and resources. We try to connect our mentors with other mentors. So definitely, don't try to go at it alone. There are so many great resources that can help you and can help make you more successful. And I would say, above all, follow your little's lead in defining their own success and defining what they want out of the relationship and out of their life.
That's some great advice. Okay, folks, we have two more questions. Excuse me, two more questions, and then we'll open up the floor to some Q&A. But for the panel here, and I have Kayla, John, and Abby answering, but anybody can jump in. Given the current landscape, whether that's socio landscape, political landscape, economic landscape, what role do you think mentoring plays in this current landscape with everything that's going on, again, both economically, but also socio-politically?
I know it sounds a little cliche to say now more than ever it's important, but I think with the political landscape especially, and considering the youth that typically, at least in our agency, I'll speak to who our littles are, they're 75% young males, 80% BIPOC youth. I think it's about 2/3 of them come from a single parent household that is female led. Knowing that we have this landscape, so like social landscape, it's really important to be aware of the disproportionate effects that come from not having a support, knowing that there are some very real attacks on identity that are going on right now, politically speaking and socially, and understanding that we do have a responsibility to take care of one another. One of the things that we try to seek out is mentors that have an authentic connection with our mentees, and that is in a large part based on their identity. So we do try to match, young males of color with older males of color, so that way they can speak to that experience, because sometimes it's very alienating to have somebody that, it can actually backfire to have somebody that you can't identify with as a mentor, because you then realize that perhaps you are alone, truly, and there is no one that understands. And that is completely counterintuitive to what we're trying to achieve through mentorship. So I think that that's really important. And the other thing that I think is critical is that with the changing landscape as far as our workforce is concerned, the apprenticeships don't really exist as much anymore as they used to. And with the pace of technology in this rapidly evolving landscape, it is also very, very important that we create a pipeline for our workforce to go from, even starting at elementary school through college into the workforce, and have that mentorship loop happen, so that way we can continue to have economic productivity. So I won't be too long-winded about that, but I think that both socially, interpersonally, workforce-oriented, we really have to be mindful of the responsibility we have to each other, and be aware that just because there are forces that be that may dictate how we're supposed to relate or not supposed to relate to each other, that there's never a bad time to be connected with another person who you can guide. So
John, want to add?
If we're talking government efficiency, who here would not rather have someone out in the community, not committing crimes, working, paying taxes, and raising their families, than sitting in state prison watching Seinfeld reruns at $115,000 a year? I'm not naive. There are people who belong in prison, people who cannot, who belong in prison. But that's not the case for all of them. It's not always the best solution for the community or for them. The UCAN defendants, certainly in county court, every one of them would be in state prison right now. It is extremely unusual for the people who've been in the UCAN program, even those who've not met the demanding requirements to graduate, to commit another crime. You cannot say that about the people who get out of state prison.
Abby, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I'll bring it down a little bit. And football players, we have football buffs in here. All right. So listen, I don't know football, but what is the position, right, that protects the quarterback?
The offensive line.
There we go. That I'm a basketball mom. I don't do football. But that's who we are as mentors. And that's what mentorship has to live as right now, right? Because we know that our young people are living in a world of distraction upon distraction upon distraction. And while we want them to be aware of all of the things that are happening around them and to factor those things into the decisions that they're making for themselves, we also need to play the role of protecting our QBs and making sure that they get to the end zone. See, I know things. Making sure that they get there safely for that touchdown, whatever that touchdown is that they've told you that they wanted in the first place. And so we understand that these things are happening. And as mentors, we explain, we're the soundboard for them when they're trying to understand what their landscape is. But our job is not to make decisions for them. Our job is not to convince them or to sway them one way or the other. Here's the facts, here's what it is, and here's how it affects you and what you're trying to do in the next 4 or 5 years. This is what it is. So now how are we going to get you to the end zone? That's what mentorship needs to be right now. We need to protect our young people from the distractions that are constantly coming from them in media and wherever, because there's so much of it. We need to protect ourselves from the distractions. But imagine for those who can't make right away, sense of what's happening in their world. It's happening to them and not with them. And so we need to protect them.
That's big. I read the other day, with all the news going on, it's like I call it like, chaos spaghetti that's getting splattered all over the place. But, we have to protect. I have reached a point in the last month where I intentionally don't listen to the news, don't listen to, don't scroll on social media because, protecting our own mental health should not be looked at as a selfish endeavor. It's actually necessary. And these, young folks who might not have that awareness or skill set yet, I think it speaks to what Abby just mentioned. Okay, so this is the last question.
I wanted to add
Okay,
something.
go ahead.
Yeah. Something I think is really important is as you think about engaging with young people in these very difficult times, number one, don't underestimate what they already know. And the way to do that is to really be a listener more than a talker. And also to check your biases about young people and about different identities, even ones that be open to learning from young people about new things that have popped up on the scene versus coming from your own perspective, because we have so much to learn from young people. And the fact that social media exists and they learn, news at before it can even hit our phone, they already know about it from TikTok and Instagram, et cetera. So be willing to check your biases, be willing to research, be willing to learn from children versus being the expert all the time. And young people are of all ages are finding themselves, but being exposed to things that are important and that we may not have experienced or learned about until we were a lot older. And so be willing to be a sounding board again, versus being the expert in the room. Listening is really more important than knowing everything or even advice. Like, be willing to just listen. Have any of you ever heard a middle schooler vent and just not responded? It's right. It's important. You can tell they need to get these things out versus hearing an adult say, "Oh, well, you should do this." It's more important for them to feel heard right now than to be told what to do, because none of us know what to do, especially in this climate.
Well, and you can't always make sense of what a middle schooler is complaining about too. Like, for what it's worth.
have to get a notebook and look for definitions.
Yeah.
My
Well,
own-
and I'm
go
sorry, I
ahead,
just
go
want to say one last thing. So the other thing that I wanted to just chime in about, I know I already answered, but is that there's also this passive thing that's happening when it comes to our attention span and the digital landscape, whereby if we don't take an active role and go in and act as an intermediary and as an interceptor of this information that's coming in, there's literally an algorithm that is feeding them mental health toxicity. Like, we have to be aware and we have to be deliberate about addressing it and being present to counterbalance it and to offer a different perspective. It's so important. Like, it's crazy.
It's very important. I heard, again, you think, just mindset shifts, right? You think that the fear of giving this to a 11 or 12-year-old is that they're going to now have access to the world. But the real fear is that the world now has access to your 11-year-old. So it's like flipping how you think about that. And, my wife tells me, I don't need you to fix it. I just want you to listen, right? So listening to that is good advice, even in adulthood.
Your wife is smart.
And also, in my mentoring journey, I got good about asking open-ended questions, right? So I noticed that if I ask a question that could easily be answered with a yes or a no, that there would just be a yes or a no, and then the conversation. So I had to I had to think intentionally about the types of questions I was asking. Okay, this is the last question, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A. I'd like each of you, in a little bit more detail, to talk about the current opportunities your program offers, and specifically, what are the engagement needs, and how can folks in this room and listening online get more involved? So again, let's actually try to pair people with opportunity right now. What are the needs? What are the types of ways they get involved, and how can they get involved? And we'll just start with Abby here.
Okay, so the Black and Latino Achievers has several arms, so to speak. And so the mentors are our adult achievers. The way that the program works is that 50% of your time you are spending mentoring your teen achievers or your youth achievers, or quite possibly a college achiever. And then the other 50% of the time you are working on yourself professionally and personally. And so these are individuals who are they're emerging or mid-level professionals who are looking to level themselves up, so to speak, in their respective industries, or they're trying to jump ship into another industry. And so they just need some basic tools to help them do that. And there's a range. So we have adult achievers who really just want to work on their communication skills. We have adult achievers that want to work on their grant writing skills. And so whatever it is that they're looking to level themselves up because of what they're trying to get to, we provide that professional development for them to allow that. Why? The reason being is that we're asking the teens to level themselves up, and we can't be hypocrites. Remember, I said we're doing everything, we're modeling everything for these kids the way that we're asking them to do it. And so if we want the kids to level themselves up, we want the adults to do the same thing. Right now, the application is open. We have a small cohort. You would be chosen by 5 youth or teens, so it's 7th to 12th grade achievers. You'd be chosen by 5 of them to be their mentor. And it's a year-long process, so October to June, school year. October to June time that you're spending with them in program. But remember, I said as a mentor, this is a life thing. So as far as structured program, you're with us from October to June, but we do expect that you are connecting with your mentee throughout the year until you both decide that you've gotten everything that you need from each other. We only bring in 20 adult achievers for each cohort on purpose because it keeps it small, it keeps it intimate, and it helps build the community and the relationship. The goal is that as we progress, as you complete your cohort year, you then move into your alumni year, where now we're leveling you up and building up your board skills, right? Because now we need you to sit on boards in the communities that you represent. That's the goal, the end game. The ultimate end game is that you end up on the WISE board, but but whatever your passion is, we need you to sit on the board of the organization that makes sense for you. We need representation of Black and Latino individuals on the boards in respective organizations in the Albany or the Capital Region. So the application is open right now. It's on cdymca.org's website, and it closes June 3rd on purpose because we have lots of fun. We kick off the year after the orientation. We kick off the year with a weekend retreat at Camp Ginger Cook, and I promise you, folks come in grumping and they're grouchy about it until the very first day is over. Then it's a completely different experience. And last year, about 99, think about more than that, 99.99% out of 130 kids, there was only two of them that had gone camping before. So every single student that went and the adult achievers that attended had never gone camping ever. And so it was an experience. I actually had one achiever that said, "Miss Abby, this is an experience." I'm like, "Is it? Is it?" He's like, "Yeah. So what do I do? We're having a bonfire with s'mores." I said, "Well, go have some s'mores." He's like, "I've never had a s'more." "You've never had a s'more?" So I said, "Well, you gotta go get a stick and then go get your marshmallow." He said, "Where do I get the stick?" I said, "Off the ground." Off the ground. So yes, that was an eye-opening experience for him. And so him and his mentor spent time making s'mores, which was a beautiful thing for me because that was an experience that was created for him that he's never going to forget. And at some point, he's going to want to pass that along to someone else. And so we would love to have more adults. We would love to have more Latinos in the cohort. And Latinas, please, but we would love to have more of you here. And application closes June 30th. Thank you.
I'm forever amazed at how many mentors, when they finish their year commitment, thank us for giving them the opportunity and sign up again. I think they do it and enough of that and move on, but that's not the case. We have a need right now for mentors in Schenectady City Court and Albany County Court. The difference is Schenectady City Court is a misdemeanor court, Albany County Court is a felony court, but they're both very, very rewarding experiences. We provide you with training, we provide you with support. There's a background check, but a prior record is not disqualifying necessarily. Many of our best mentors have a past. We certainly have a strong need for mentors of color. And I guess my parting word is, if you aren't in the game, then don't complain.
At 518 Elevated, we are looking for mentors to serve in multiple capacities. Number one is being a one-to-one mentor for 10th through 12th graders. The schools that we serve are Albany High School, Troy High School, and Schenectady High School. And being a one-to-one mentor means that you are with the student from 10th grade to 12th grade, although some of our older students, 11th and 12th grade, are not matched right now. So it's possible that you could connect with the 12th grader and just work with them for 1 year. And that involves a once-a-month connection. And every time that you meet up with your mentee, you would report back in our system. And so again, that's a typical 3-year commitment. The other way is we are workforce development focused, which you had mentioned. So we have guest speakers coming into our classrooms to speak about their industries, but not just what they do now, but their journey to that place. Especially if you grew up in Troy, Albany, or Schenectady, it's really impactful to come back and speak to students who are in those schools. So if you want to come in and share with our students about your own career journey and what you do now, et cetera, you can come in and do like a 1 or 2 touch point in the classroom, and that can be like the entirety of your mentoring experience. You could also work with a small group of students who have identified that they share an interest with you, or they're interested in the career path that you're on as well. And that would be just a few times a year as well, not as long of a commitment. Um, we serve about 200 students across the 3 high schools every year, and we have about 120 students currently in college and post-secondary institutions across 70 plus institutions. So if you are wanting to support a college student with just checking in, care packages, phone calls, encouraging words, things like that, that's also an opportunity for you. It really can become it's not really a one size fits all. It can become what you would like to get out of this experience. And to sign up, you can go to 518elevated.org/mentors. And for the folks we have in the room, I have mentorship cards to give you before we leave.
So at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we have a lot of different programs that we offer. Right now, Keta is our senior program manager, so she handles a lot of the different programming that we have. Currently, what I'm focused on is our high school leadership program. That's a program where we match 3rd graders with 10th graders. Currently, we're in the Schenectady School District, but we are talking to the Rensselaer School District, and then also hoping to get into Albany this next school year. The 3rd to 10th grade relationship happens over lunch once every other week. They get together and go through a social emotional learning curriculum, and that is one of the programs that I actually took the data from regarding depressive symptoms, bullying, and positive behavioral effects. That was also where we were able to demonstrate and see the connectedness within the families that increased and improved after we rolled out this model. We like to call it an intergenerational stewardship model, or a peer-to-peer mentorship program. So that program right now is really the core focus of what we're trying to grow in the Capital Region, aside from our flagship programs, which Keta will tell you more about.
Yes, so in addition to our site-based programs, our flagship program is our community-based program, and we absolutely need volunteers, BIGs, in that program. Similar to our fellow mentoring organizations, we in particular need men and men of color, but we currently have over 100 kids on our wait list waiting to be matched with their big brother or big sister. And the commitment that you're agreeing to is to see the child twice a month and have a weekly check-in call. And it's a year of service. And if you choose to stay involved longer, you absolutely can. We have matches who have been together 6, 10, even 12 years, which is the entire time a child can be matched. And similar to what Kayla said earlier, if you're doing fun, free to low cost activities, and ideally doing things that you'd want to do anyway. So if you like sports or arts and crafts or nature, we're going to match you with a little who shares those interests. So you're just bringing your new friend along to something you'd be doing anyway. And we also host monthly events that are almost always free for you to come to. And that's another way that we could use support. So we have something called the Big Experience Program, which was initially conceived as a way to serve those children on the wait list, because we wanted to see how can we engage them and how can we still support them while they're waiting for their one-to-one match. So we have done all sorts of great things. We've done STEM classes, parties for the holidays, hikes, cooking classes. We've gone to the Siena Observatory on their roof. So if if your organization or some group that you're affiliated with could host us for something, or give us a tour of something, or if you have a special skill that you'd love to teach a class for our littles, that's another great way, and we'd love to work with you in that capacity as well.
Wonderful. So much information given today. Unfortunately, we cut into the Q&A time a little bit, so we do have time for maybe one question. I want to say to the folks online, if there's a desire to connect with our panelists, for anyone online, I believe Danielle's contact information was on the registration page. And if you want to connect with any of the panelists, maybe shoot Daniel an email and he can kind of connect you with the panelists here. But for those in the room or online, we do have time for maybe one question. Yes.
Sorry. John, curious to know how many young adults a year are in your program?
It's hard to say because it's not like they all come in on January 1st and all leave the end of the year. They come in when they come in. At the moment, we've got 6 or 7 in Albany County Court, 10 or 12 in Schenectady City Court. Buffalo's going crazy on me with about 25 I'm having trouble keeping up with. Syracuse, Binghamton, nothing at the moment. So I don't know if that answers your question or
Yeah.
not, but
And the program lasts a year, so they're in the program for 1 year?
yes, it's kind of a legal reason why we don't have any control of them after that. But that's kind of an in the weeds matter.
Thank you.
Time for one more, or we're wrapping? Okay. Or not, that's okay. I'd like to, if we can pull up the last photo, I'd like to dedicate this panel discussion to a community pillar that we lost recently, Mr. Walter Simpkins, a great colleague of mine, a lot of work in the Schenectady County community, but all over the 518 really. He passed away recently. He founded an organization called Community Fathers, which seeks to, in particular, re-engage men that get out of prison with estranged families, and does a lot of work there on supporting not only the person coming out, but their family. So we just want to dedicate today's panel discussion to Walter, because he did a lot of great in our community, and we lost a pillar recently. So, peace and rest in peace to Walter and everybody that was impacted by his passing. So again, thank you all for the opportunity today. We hope that we had some light bulbs go off in the heads, in this room and also online. The main point we want to get across is that there's a lot of need out there. Most of what you heard is that there are waiting lists. So the need is there. We just need our community members to kind of step up, to be committed, to be consistent, and to lean into this this need that's great in our community. So I thank you again for your time. I thank the leadership again at Excelsior University for hosting us, and I'll turn it back over to Daniel for some closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And thank you, everyone, not only for your time, but for your partnership, for your leadership, for your investment in this. When I think of mentoring, two things come to mind that to me are really powerful. There are some messages that I think need to be screamed at from the rooftop to everyone at all times, because they are vital to our survival and hopefully to our ability to develop as a society. One of them is the need for democracy, right? And this concept that together we can do better than alone, and that together is not only the people I care about, but it's everyone in my community. And how can we engage? How can we make sure that we give the voice and the opportunity to contribute to everyone, and that I find ways of contributing myself, and to be really intentional about that. The other one, or parallel to that, is the fact that I am so clear, right, in the levels of contribution that people have had to my life and to my development, right? Some people have given to me, some people have been with me, some people have engaged with me, some people have mentored me, some people have sponsored me. Some people have taken me by the hand and opened the door that I didn't even ask for. And I know, like, with all fervor, right, that I would not be here without those people who one day saw something in me and said, I want you to think of this, and I'm opening this door for you, and I'm going to push you through. It seems to me that in this moment, we really don't have a choice. And that's the message that we need to scream to ourselves and to everyone else. We don't have a choice. If we know that this is a catalyst for the change that we need, for the ability to support others to reach their potential, that we must get involved. And that was, why I thought this was a very important conversation and a very important panel. That's why I so admire the work that you do. And I really wish that we can take that message with us, right? That if we are where we are because of what has been given to us, can we then give back a little bit? And mentoring is such a wonderful way in which we can do that. So thank you. And know that we are already in conversations about developing a collaboration, perhaps a consortium, to begin to work together and do more in the capital region and beyond. For everyone online, also be aware that we have representatives here of chapters of national mentor programs, which means that there's an opportunity beyond the capital region to become involved, and there's connections. And as Jason said, I can serve as the contact right in between all of us. If anybody has a follow-up, is interested, just let me know, and then you can contact the Center for Social Justice and we can connect you. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists.
for
Thank
having
you,
us.
Jason. Thank you, David, and thank you, everyone, for making this happen.